This friend used to go to a phone box every time they were out drinking, and he would call a number. And he would say, "Hey, it's John here. Can I leave a message for David?" And he did this repeatedly over 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, he called that number back and he said, "Hi, it's David. Did anybody leave any messages for me?"
Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Fuck yeah, we are.
Because I love cats.
Were his trousers and underpants also around his ankles?
No, that would have been great.
You were born, were you?
No, nobody was. In 82, your egg industry is clearly superior to our egg industry.
Who are these two idiots? Episode 4, Taco. That means that we have outlasted 90% of podcasts that begin, according to a statistic that, I'll be honest, I heard once and I never checked, I never verified. So I don't know if that's true. We have got 3 episodes out. This is the 4th we're recording. How are you feeling about all of this?
I'm feeling great about that. It's an unverified statistic, but I'm comfortable believing it because it makes us feel good, right? We're already, I don't know, we're better than %, but to make it to a 4th podcast doesn't feel that challenging. Maybe their problem was they put too much effort into their first 3 and they burned out on it. And the key is to just go real cash.
Yeah, we have put literally no effort into this. This is spur of the moment. Well, I think we used to do these calls, didn't we? And I really enjoyed just kicking it.
Yeah. And why wouldn't somebody want to listen in on those conversations?
Exactly.
I usually drink coffee, but I switched to tea because I was in Vegas over the weekend and I got sick, and tea's supposed to make me feel better. Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Fuck yeah, we are.
In the UK, do you have the expression, "you feel like a bag of smashed assholes"? Because that's how I feel right now.
We don't. I mean, I imagine somebody British has said that at one point or another. That's not something I hear on a regular basis. Okay. It's a good one, though.
I like it, and I feel like it really demonstrates when you're not feeling super well. I slept like the last 48 hours, but I responded to your message. You're like, "Hey, we got to record," and this is how dedicated I am to this podcast that I don't prepare for. I think it sums me up as a Degen.
No, I think, to be honest, if we prepared something, we'd run longer than 40 minutes, right? We'd be here for hours.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Let's unpack a couple of things that you said, because I want to get on to the Las Vegas trip. I think jet setting Taco is a wonderful addition to the podcast. But you said there you're drinking tea. Now, tea in England is a very specific thing. And given that we've set the internet ablaze with potato waffles and Greggs in the last few podcasts, when you say tea, what are you talking about?
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to say that when we're discussing breakfast, I think that the US is a dominant force in that regard. But when we're discussing tea, I'll admit we're nothing compared to what you guys do and what you care about and what goes into it there. And so I know that whatever my answer is going to be wrong, and I accept that is going to be wrong. Great. So for me, tea is boiled water. I don't microwave it. I know better than that. That I put a tea bag into, and then it turns into this hot liquid that tastes spicy. Not spicy, but like it's Earl Grey.
So maybe... Oh, it's Earl Grey you're drinking. Okay, cool. Because tea in England, there are essentially 2 categories. There is tea, which is breakfast, English breakfast tea, Twinings, PG Tips, Yorkshire tea if you're fancy, like we are in the Hutch household. And then there's other. And in other comes peppermint tea. Earl Grey sits on this kind of strange borderline because there's a very citrusy element to it. but it is part of teas. But it's like, you don't. That's not an everyday tea, right? That is a fancy special occasion tea.
Okay. I like that I'm in the middle and I straddle both worlds.
You do. Did you put any milk in that?
I don't put any dairy, just a bit of honey.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're sweetening. Okay. How lovely. I had 2 cups of tea today. Yorkshire Gold. You'll be happy to know the fancy tea, and it was delightful. Milk in them always. I go for what's called a builder's tea, right? And that is a very well renowned English drink that you'll know for any job that you ever had when you're entry level. It is your job to make the tea, and so when somebody says I want a builder's tea, what they're asking for is a long stew, but then quite heavy on the milk. So you've got like a milky but strong tea flavor.
Oh, I don't generally do any dairy. I wrote down Yorkshire Gold. I'll bet we don't even have that here, but I'm going to look and if they do, I'm going to buy some. If I can afford it, I guess I should have asked that. Can I afford that?
Yeah, it's not going to. Well, to be honest, when they've shipped it overseas, I don't know, but I definitely I've spent a fair bit of time in the States, and usually, certainly in most places in California and most places on the East Coast, they'll have like a shelf, right, which is British stuff, and there's Kit Kats and Penguins on there sometimes, and I saw some Tunnocks tea cakes there once. Fascinating. But there's normally a couple of particular brands. PG Tips is one, and if they have another, it's always Yorkshire. So it might not be Yorkshire Gold. Yorkshire Gold is the select cuts of tea, but yeah, any Yorkshire tea is
So
good.
Yorkshire Bronze is still acceptable.
Yeah, there's a red Yorkshire, which is the main one. Then there's a blue Yorkshire, which is the decaf, and then Yorkshire Gold is like the premium one. Talking of Yorkshire, Betty from Deadfellas, I believe I heard this once. Again, I don't verify any of the things that I hear, but she was born in Yorkshire. I'm just going to say it. If it's not true, it's going to become internet law very shortly. But they just announced what I am told is a game-changing piece of technology. I'm very excited. I have no idea what it does, but it's all the rage, right? My timeline is alight with talk of this product. Do you know anything about it?
So a thing I think I know about Betty is that she's an Aussie. So
Yeah.
born in Yorkshire, made her way to Australia, then to LA.
Yes.
Maybe? Or somewhere.
No, I think she's back in.
Or did she go back to
she's back
At
in
some point, she
Australia.
moved to the US.
Yeah.
I think. I'll bet she would love to know we're talking about her in such non-detailed details. I don't. Sorry, Betty.
And we can't go into. I don't know anything about the product either. It's called Cold Link, and it's some kind of verification. I mean, it's when I see stuff like this, and obviously, I'm bullish on Deadfellas.
Mm-hmm.
I know that what they're building is really cool, and I see everybody else excited for it. So that's just. I mean, I'm swept up in the bullish momentum, as if it were 2021 again. But I do not possess the technical capability to really understand what that thing is. But I don't know if you've seen their little mascot for it, which is the little dog cat thing.
I have not. Is
Beautiful.
it
Beautiful branding. That's what I get excited about.
Is
branding.
it a dead cat or is it outside of the dead universe?
I don't know. It's definitely a cat. It's wagging its tail, but it has earrings as well.
Huh. Okay. Well, you know what? This is going to be my homework for next week. I'm going to figure out what you're talking about. And I'm going to do the thing. Is it a service I can sign up for?
I couldn't tell you. It looks like there's a Twitter account, so we can go and follow the Twitter account and see what that is. Maybe we can try and convince Betty to come on the podcast and tell us, A, was she born in Yorkshire? Because I heard that once, I think. Secondly, what's her favourite type of breakfast? And thirdly, what's cold link?
Yeah, I think if someone shares with her this conversation, she'll have to come on, right? The best way to get a guest to come on our show is to just butcher whatever it is they're doing in our own interpretation of it. Yeah, Betty, please come tell us what it is you're doing. Because I love cats, right?
Me too. Me too. Oh, yeah. I mean, we wade into topics that we're definitely not qualified to talk on. But again, like, we're both creative.
But also,
there's no tech.
If we came on here and you said Betty from Deadfellows launched this thing, go buy XYZ, I would just go buy it without having any idea what it is that you're talking about.
Me too. And in fact, I'm not sure there is anything for sale around it because I would have seen it and I would have immediately bought it. So I don't know. It sounds exciting.
Well, she just missed 2 sales just between the 2 of us. I'm not saying she's doing it wrong. I'm just saying she could have monetized the Catlink project.
I love the Catlink project. I love the idea that she's going to at some point say to somebody in her team, who are these 2 idiots? Oh, we've spoken to her before though, haven't we? I don't think I have actually.
Yes. When I was still with Gala Music, I interviewed Betty in our giant pod at VCon in Indianapolis.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Yeah. Then she's got no excuse then. She should be on the pod. How was Las Vegas? Did you meet up with the infamous Las Vegas land?
I did. Yes, it was amazing.
He's real.
As always, very gracious. He picked me up at my hotel. We went to a chain of restaurants called Baby Stacks, which sells stacks of different kinds of breakfast stuff. We actually met up with Keanu, who you may know from the Gala ecosystem. Great to see him. Got a lot of terrific food there. And then Lance took me to Pink Box Donuts. He actually bought me this shirt ahead of time. He gifted me a shirt, which, should buy me things. Right?
Specifically clothing, or are you open to other types of adornments? Beads, obviously, we've had that.
Yeah, all the things I think is appropriate. Right? Who doesn't want to show up somewhere and have a friend be like, oh, I got you this stuff. It's like, oh, that's really nice. It was super nice. And then we went to Pink Box and I got some donuts. They were really good.
See, they look good, but also I'm wary of donuts because since, when was it? 2006, 2007, when Krispy Kreme donuts made its way over the Atlantic to the UK. That's sort of been my go-to, like it's ruined all other donuts for me. And specifically to the point where they're so fine and delicate as a donut that when other people try and do a donut, it's always a bit more rustic. And I don't want rustic in the same way that I don't want granary bread. Yeah. I want white bread. I want processed, softest. I want the fluffiest, softest nonsense ever. I don't want a hearty loaf.
Yeah, I think a lot of our donut places, like Pink Box, there's every option you could possibly want. And so whatever style you're looking for, they've got it. And then they've got 10 more that you weren't looking for, but that now you need to have.
I like it. Are they exclusive to Las Vegas?
I don't know. There were a few of them there. I had never heard of them. I'm just looking up real quick something that I hadn't thought of because we hadn't talked about donuts yet. But one of the things we could do when you come to the U.S. is in Ohio, there's something called the Donut Trail, which is, it's a trail. It's not like you don't walk it, but you go to a series of different donut places in different towns and cities within a certain loop, and you visit all of their donut spots, which is super fun.
I mean, driving to different donut shops as if it's a pub
It's
crawl.
a pub crawl for
sounds
donuts.
like
Yes,
the most
that's exactly right.
Yeah. In fact, the only way it could be more American is if you and I had separate cars.
Yeah.
And we both drove to those different places separately. But we took two cars because we needed that. We couldn't carpool.
No, don't carpool. Nope. Yeah.
I love the sound of that. We have to find a reason. There might be a reason for you coming to the UK, which I'm very excited about. We must find a reason for me to go to the States. There might be some film stuff coming up that I should head over for, which would be cool. But yes, that cultural exchange, I think, is going to make some great content. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it should be good. I feel no guilt whatsoever that the things I want you to experience are the worst things about us. The donut shops and Waffle House, and not, we're not going to any museums, Hutch. We're not doing that.
Oh no, I like this actually, because I think that when you travel, you're sort of protected from all of that, right? You're protected from the mundane, because whenever I go to the States, I'm always going to places that are heavily touristy, right? And everyone's putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like North Korea, like when you drive out from the airport, there's like happy people and they're all like, it's like Disneyland, but they're putting on a show. And the same is true of America, that all of the interest points are close because that's where the tourists are. And so you kind of miss the kind of humdrum day in, day out stuff. And we get a little bit of that from TV and stuff. But I remember this was back in 2012. I was out in California shooting like a music video / documentary thing. And on the way back, we had a layover in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I didn't know what that was, right? I've never heard of that town. 2012, Hutch had never heard more than like the main cities, right? LA, San Francisco, New York. That was my understanding of the US. And we booked some cheap flights, right? And we had a 12-hour layover in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I was there, like, I was with a friend, and I was like, I can't be bothered I don't want to sit around the airport for 12 hours. Like, let's go into the town. And he was like, okay. And so we got on a bus and we went into town. And I don't know if it's changed now, but like, it was weird. Like Stepford Wives kind of weird, like big, empty, expensive buildings. We were like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. Anyway, we found the only bar or the only pub, actually. It was actually an Irish pub. And we walk in, obviously designed by someone who had never been to Ireland. And then there was this big mural on the wall. And the owner, hearing a British accent, came out and he was like, oh, great to meet you guys. Like, we don't normally have outsiders here. He didn't say that, but that kind of vibe, right? And he showed me this mural and he was like, look, I had this painted. It's incredible. And it was this like old British aristocracy scene, right? A library. And there was a table upon which in that time period, one would be playing billiards or snooker. And he was so proud of it. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Like, is the joke that they're actually playing pool? And he was like, and he'd had this thing up for years, apparently, and hadn't realized that the game that they were playing was the modern American table game of pool, which definitely didn't exist in the time that this painting was. I was like, they should be playing snooker or billiards. Like, I ruined his year, I think.
And then he had to have that mural redone, which probably cost a pretty penny.
I wonder if it's still there. It could still be there.
It's still there.
I'll look it up after.
He's not going to replace that.
Okay. No, that's too expensive. He's going to look at it every day, and it's just going to hurt him a little bit.
Right.
Sorry if you're listening.
Sorry, bud.
Tell me more about Las Vegas then. Did you do any gambling?
Yeah, I did a bit of gambling. It was the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. I don't know how much you guys follow American collegiate basketball. You're probably super into it.
Not at all.
So the first...
Oh, yeah.
It was the first couple of rounds of that. And so, yes, did some betting on some games. Responsible betting, not Degen betting. I ended the weekend, I'd say, probably about even, which I think is great. I didn't go crazy. Yeah, always fun to gamble. And at a big sports book where there's a ton of people all watching games together is really fun. I think the most fun thing of that experience, of that gambling, I made friends with some guys at a table. We're all watching the same game, betting on the same game. It doesn't have to do with the sports itself, but at some point, another guy and I both had to go to the bathroom at the same time. He went in ahead of me and went to one of the urinals, and he pulled his shirt like all the way up and like tucked it under his arms, I think to avoid peeing on himself, like not to get his shirt wet.
Splashback.
And it was, I think, amazing because I don't think I've seen that outside of toddlers, like when you're first learning. And I couldn't like, is that leftover from when you learn it, but then at no point does anybody say, hey, you don't have to pull your shirt like way up, like he's gonna, or does he do it because he's still bad at peeing and knows if he doesn't, even as an adult, it's gonna go horribly wrong and get pee all over his shirt?
Well, hold on. Important contextual information. Were his trousers and underpants also around his ankles?
No. That would have been great. Yeah, that would have been I probably would have stopped hanging out with those guys if that were also the case. That probably would have been maybe even more jarring. Like, he wasn't super drunk. They were all totally normal guys.
So that in England, if I saw that if I went into a bathroom in England, in a pub, and somebody did that, right? Trousers around the ankles, shirt tucked up, I know that guy is the life and soul of the party. Like, his friends think he is fucking hilarious because that is a master level stupidity. Like that again, the fun of the British humor is that you can't tell if somebody's joking. And to elevate that even more, if you're a Brit going to America and you do that, and all the Americans go, "Oh, that's kind of weird." Oh, that is the most elite level of British humor that you can ever hope to achieve. So either he is one of the most brilliant and committing to the bit level comedian of all time, or like that guy just never learned to not pee on himself.
I think it has to be the latter because, and listen, I don't get to decide who's funny and who's not funny, but these guys weren't funny. They were just normal guys watching basketball together. It couldn't have been a bit. Now I'm wishing it had been a bit, but it wasn't.
I mean, I feel like it would have been even more brilliant of a bit to have played it unhumorous for the rest of the time that they met you and just leave you with that one thing. Like, that's Andy Kaufman kind of commit to the bit.
You're right. You know? And also, going forward, that is how I'm going to approach urinals. I'm going to tuck my shirt up and I'm going to pull my trousers down because that is funny. If you're doing it to be
it's
funny.
Objectively hilarious.
But I think it's funnier if you're with people who aren't funny. Maybe this has layers that I hadn't. I thought he just hadn't unlearned that trick when you were a kid.
Well, I think this is where the Americans can learn a lot from the Brits, that something is funny, but when the other person doesn't know that it's funny, it's 10x funny. I once knew a guy, I think, I can't remember if this was his joke or whether someone said it and he was repeating this joke. But the joke goes that this friend used to go to a phone box every time they were out drinking. And he would call a number. And he would say, "Hey, it's John here. Can I leave a message for David?" And he did this repeatedly over 6 months. And every week or so when he made this call, the owner of the house would be like, "We don't know a David. Like, there's nobody here by that name. That you can't stop calling. I don't know who's giving you this number." And at the end of 6 months, he called that number back and he said, "Hi, it's David. Did anybody leave any messages for me?" Now, I hope this isn't true, because that's derailing to somebody's life. But what a bit! What a commitment to call every week for 6 months, and then just the pay. And that's not like, that's only funny for him. It's only him that's really getting the joy out of that story. You know, like it's so much time and so much commitment that's British humor.
You're right. It didn't occur to me that maybe that was a bit, and it's super hilarious to that guy. And he probably has his own podcast. And right now he's telling the story about he met some guy who was just alone at a sports book hanging out with his group. And he went in ahead of him and did the thing where he pulled his shirt way up, just knowing that this guy's freaking out about it somewhere.
I feel like if he does see this, then next time, really commit, right? Trousers and underpants round your ankles. And like that has got to be the ultimate great bit. So Las Vegas was eventful.
Yeah, so I had donuts, and there was this guy who pulled his shirt up when he peed. That's it. That's Las Vegas.
Phenomenal.
Nailed it.
Phenomenal. Well, I'm glad for you. I hope in the future we do some like travelogue stuff where we get little check-ins from Taco, food related.
Yeah.
Shall we go to the Degen mailbag?
I would love that.
Now, we've got to find some way of getting rid of the ones that we've answered, because I'm having to scroll up quite far. There's the burger thing that we talked about last time. Oh gosh. Okay, this is a tough one, and I forgot about it. I haven't planned anything, but I'm going to throw it to you first. And this is it. It's hard, right? Okay. Sleeping Giant, the wonderful Sleeping Giant. Please come up with an acronym for Degen without using AI, live, without forethought.
So he knows me well enough to know that I would have read that, and instead of doing it, would have just forgotten all about it. And so I have not actually done this exercise. And he knows, even though at that moment I could have gone, "Oh, all right, I'm going to go figure this out, and it's going to be really clever," and pretend like on the spot I thought of it. And he knows I did not do that, because I'm not that clever. As most people who get to know me a little bit know, I'm not that clever. We'll do it on the spot. So Degen.
Yeah.
Degen. Okay. And I'm not using AI. Have you got yours already?
I'm not even using human intelligence. I do have mine. Would you like me to go first?
Did you use dynamic?
No.
Oh, okay.
I used Derek.
Even better. Perfect. Okay, yeah. So Derek for the D.
Derek enjoys.
Yep.
Good. existential noises. Now, I think that those are the words that appeared in my head as I tried to, and so obviously I thought of Derek, right? And I was like, come on, that's fucking stupid. Go and pick something else. But I was like, no, this is what he requested. No forethought, just what stream of consciousness. There we have it. Derek enjoys good existential noises.
Yeah, what I like about it is I believe that about Derek.
I mean, if anyone.
Yeah. I can't top that. I'm not even going to try. Nailed it. You nailed it, Hutch. Suck it, sleeping giant.
No, but you've got. I saw you writing. I
started to, but I can't top Derek, and I'm not even going to.
You've got just the first words that come to your head now. You said dynamic.
I did, but it wasn't going anywhere.
What was the E?
I hadn't gotten to E yet, Hutch. We already established I'm not very clever.
Dynamic eggs. Dynamic eggs get eaten. No.
Normally they do, but I don't know how things are in the UK. We can no longer afford dynamic eggs here in the States.
Yeah, what is that about?
It's
why are eggs specifically expensive?
Someone told me it's because there's a bird flu that's impacting the eggs, and so there's a shortage. But eggs are super, super expensive right now. Like and I don't live anywhere fancy, and eggs are $9 a dozen right now. Where I go for my grocery store, and I'm not in the city. I'm in a normal suburban area. It's $9 for a dozen regular eggs.
$9. Hang on, which way does the conversion rate go? So that's like £5. £6.
A lot.
Our eggs are half that. Wild.
Rub it in. Your egg industry is clearly superior to our egg industry.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, we're not buying tons of eggs every week, right? I might buy 6.
Yeah, it occurs to me we consume a lot of eggs here, which maybe is part of the problem, is how many eggs we eat.
Okay. How many eggs would you say you consume on a weekly basis?
Not a ton. I had 2 eggs today. I had 2 hard-boiled eggs on a salad, on a Caesar salad. And that might be the only 2 eggs I have all week. I might just have those 2 eggs.
Okay. I was worried for a moment there that you were getting through a dozen eggs in a week as a just you, right? And so you were having to buy 2 dozen eggs for you and your wife. And then I was going to be like, you have an egg problem,
I'll bet we get it. I'll bet we get a dozen eggs every 2 weeks. So probably a half dozen a week between me and my wife, which feels normal.
That is normal. Even that, maybe I would say we probably get 6 every 2 weeks. So a dozen a month. I would consider that a usual amount of eggs.
But if you're making like an omelet on the weekend, you'll need 3 eggs for your omelet, right?
Yeah, I don't make omelets actually. That doesn't fall into my normal purview of food. But,
what about like a British omelet?
I don't know what that is. I know a Spanish omelet.
Well, I didn't know what a British pancake was, so now I'm assuming there's a British all the things.
No, to be fair, that is a safe assumption. Although I would say that because Britain predates America, you guys putting British on the front of it doesn't make it British. It should be like, I don't know why you guys don't call football American football like we do, because that's what it should be. Okay, I'm really excited about this next Degen mailbag question because it comes from the wonderful Bucks. And we did some additional work for this. I did some AI work.
You did.
But she asked, what do you think your fans would enjoy most? Taco with long hair or Hutch with a wizard's beard? And through the amazing power of editing, I'm going to put both pictures on the screen right now. And unfortunately, the choice fell in your favor yet again. you are clearly beloved by not only the community, but also random strangers on the internet who are. There was a little bit of talk over your pronunciation of McCain, which went into some dangerous territory, but we brought it back. But yeah, you won this one again. I do like you with long hair though.
In my youth, I had a beautiful head of hair. I'll find some pictures that we can share next time.
Oh my gosh. You don't know how excited I am about that. In fact, I tell you what, if you show your youth picture, I really went through an emo phase and, baggy jeans, studded belt, Atticus t-shirts. Like, I went through it. I've got one of those that I'll post.
I love that.
In the Discord. So join the Discord if you want to see our embarrassment.
This is the note I'm taking. Find hair pics.
Okay, what have we got after Bucks, the wonderful Bucks? Las Vegas Lance. Las Vegas Lance! Which of the young ones is your favorite character? I didn't know you guys got the young ones. That made it over the pond, did it?
It did. He also asked us which one of John Wayne's films was our favorite. I don't think he should be allowed to ask questions like this because it makes us sound way older than we are. The name of the show is 40-Year-Old Degens. John Wayne, like True Grit, came out in 1969. And so we shouldn't be having to answer questions like it would. We're not 70, right?
Are you vetoing then? Do you not have a favorite Clint Eastwood film?
I don't know if I do have a favorite or is most representative of me. Was it our favorite or who is most like us?
Favorite.
They're all so good.
I mean, I'm a diehard Rick Mayall fan. He along with a few other comedians were the ones that like my grandfather, was the person in our family who was known for having the sense of humor, right? He was the silly one. And I related to that very strongly. He used to play like the two Ronnies, which were a very famous double act, like comedy double act in the 70s, and Young Ones and that kind of stuff. So I was introduced to Rick Mayall through him. And so Rick's character was always my, I think he played the character Rick, right? So he was my favorite, but Vivian was great. They were all great.
Yeah, I was 82, so we shouldn't know the answer to this.
Right? No, you weren't born, were you?
No, nobody was in 82.
But then nobody was in 82. But then all of the Python stuff, all the Monty Python stuff. Surely you've watched all of that. You've got the kind of
yeah. I don't know where I would have. I don't know what channel we would have seen this stuff, but yeah, like the Young Ones, Ab Fab, like we somehow got all those shows.
Ab Fab made it over there, really? Oh, let's explore this a little bit more then. What other? Because I was talking to a friend, one of the producers actually on Ghosts of Ruin, Michael, who is a jolly lovely chap, and he was telling me that he laughs because I made a reference actually once to a famous show in the UK, right, which is called Keeping Up Appearances, and it starred this woman who was sort of like a really good example of like middle class Britain at the time. Like she'd probably come from a working class family. She was trying to posh herself up, and her name was Hyacinth Bucket. And so she'd constantly be correcting people. Oh, no, it's Bouquet. It's Bouquet, right? That was her whole personality, was that she was trying to prove to everybody that she wasn't common. And he'd seen it. And I was like, how does that show make it to the US? But so you've seen Python, you've seen Young Ones. What else and Ab Fab, which I'm surprised at.
What are some of the other big ones I would have seen, should have seen?
Well, I'm surprised you've seen any of those, right? Like Ab Fab was, like a quirky British comedy. Like, there's no reason for that to make it over.
That was a big
It's
one,
not
though,
like,
wasn't it?
you know, Downton Abbey.
Or maybe it wasn't that big.
It wasn't massive, but like anything with Harry Enfield in it or the Fast Show would have been like the 90s. That was the sort of silly comedy that hit my youth when I was growing up. But yeah, it wasn't like the big tentpole series. Like Downton Abbey was bound to make it over to the States because it's the biggest thing on British TV, right? Whereas these are like little comedies, right?
More recently, the Mighty Boosh was pretty big over here.
Really?
I don't know if it's big, but it was readily available. That was great. That's a great show.
I mean, it was fundamental for my understanding of comedy, and you know, I dressed up and I went to the live shows and I met the guys, and should I tell the story? I once met one of them in Brighton at a house party, and yeah, that was, I loved the Mighty Boosh. And did you get all three series? Because all three series are very different in their construction and how they're put together.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. There was one, like the first one, they were zookeepers.
Yeah.
And that one's weird and like brings in like Matt Berry and like some really amazing characters. And that's based on, like, they had a radio show, which was essentially that first season, but on the radio, except that at one point an Apache helicopter turned up in the radio show, because you can do that on the radio. Doing that with actual helicopters is expensive, so they couldn't do that in the TV show. And then they moved to the flat. They were living in the flat, which is the series with like old Greg, like that was the big one. And then they moved to a shop next. That was the one with the crack fox and the Witcher.
I don't think shop one.
Oh, okay. The shop one is a good one. It's not quite as silly funny as the first one, but it's still very, very good. Yeah, anyway. We're getting massively off topic, as per usual. One more from the mailbag.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about Scar. Okay. Another one from Las Vegas Lens. He's basically becoming the third host of this.
He's our number one fan, apparently.
Oh, definitely. Would he come on the pod, or would he not want to dox?
I think he would come on the pod.
By the way you said that, what I am inferring is that he would love to come on the podcast, but you would hate to give him that platform. You would feel bitter about it, and so you want to block him from doing that. You're like, Hutch, don't.
Because this is my thing, Hutch.
We can't inflate his ego. He has a question, though. What is your favorite cover song? Mine is either Boys of Summer by the Ataris or Under Pressure by The Used and My Chemical Romance. Okay. Cover song.
See, this is like, I know these questions are in there. I read them and did no prep work. So I don't know if this counts as a cover, but one of my all-time favorite songs is Madonna's Like a Prayer. And any version, like any club remix of that, I think is really great. There've been some excellent remixes. And I'm going to count that sort of as a cover because it's so fun to dance to.
Okay. I mean, I'll accept that as an answer. I think we'll have to wait for Lance's judgment upon
that. Might not be good enough
to see whether you need to go back. I mean, I don't want to speak for him. We'll have to see what he says. My favorite cover songs that sprung to mind, and again, I didn't read any of these questions before the podcast or do any kind of prep. I thought of Heartbeats Jose Gonzalez did a cover of, maybe it was Heartbeats, but it was originally by The Knife, and it's a lovely song. So that's that one. The other one that sprung to mind was, what's his name? Oh, this is such terrible dead air. He did a cover of Always a Woman. Fife Dangerfield was his name. He did a cover of Billy Joel's She's Always a Woman. And it was just beautiful, very piano led. There was a little bit of strings in the background. Wonderful, wonderful cover.
I think we nailed that one.
I think so. We're bang on 50 minutes. There's a little bit of stuff we need to cut out, but hey, we're living the dream, baby.
You're right, though. If we prepared for this, it would go way too long.
Oh, right? Because we ad-lib. I mean, this is just literally an hour of us talking absolute shit. Yeah. And if we prepared stuff that wasn't shit, there would still be all the shit. There would just be breaks where it felt unnatural because we were just...
One of these weeks we should do, maybe like our 25th episode, we should really prepare and see what happens.
I'll take that challenge.
If we're still going at 25 episodes. That's a lot. If 90% quit after 3, that has to be like 95% are done by 5. It has to escalate quickly after that, right?
90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. Of the ones left, 90% more will quit after 20 episodes.
So 90% of the remaining 10%.
So literally, to be in the top 0.1% of podcasts, we have to get past 20 episodes.
Right. That exists, not that necessarily are successful.
Yes. Yes.
Those are entirely different statistics. We don't need to look, though. That's not important.
Well, I success with this podcast is possibly not ever on the cards, but I don't think either of us would be unhappy with that, right? Like, I think this is more a therapy session for the two of us, just to know that we're not alone in the darkness.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll stop recording then. Bye.